Good Tuesday morning. Thanks for being with us on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Megan McPherson. Happening this morning, federal law enforcement agencies are conducting several raids across the state connected to the Somali fraud investigation. That's according to federal officials. This video is from investigative reporter AJ Legault from outside the Quality Learning Center. Our AJ Legault was at one of the raids and shared these photos with us. And sources tell him that the raids are focusing on Twin Cities child and daycare centers. We do know that these raids are not part of an immigration enforcement operation. We will follow this story all day, so stay with us on Kare 11 Plus for the latest details. Breaking news out of Brooklyn Park right now, police are searching for a suspect they say fired shots in a residential neighborhood. It led to a shelter in place that was lifted earlier this morning. It happened in this neighborhood north of Brookdale Drive and Xerxes Avenue North. This was the scene around 10 p.m. Police tell us the suspect fired shots during a family dispute. Neighbors in the area were told to shelter in place, and that alert has since been lifted. Anyone with information is asked to call police. Developing this morning, police are investigating a string of car break-ins in South Minneapolis, damaging more than 30 vehicles just 24 hours ago. Police say it happened between 1:30 and 9:30 yesterday morning near Lake Nokomis and Lake Hiawatha. Police say just on 24th Avenue South, 14 vehicles had their windows smashed. One neighbor on that block tells us this is now the second time this year that his car has been damaged, costing him more than $600 to fix.
307. The last year, the same pay, 307. I don't know now what happened. I don't know where parking my car.
So far, no arrests have been made. Police are asking neighbors to submit any video footage of what happened. If your car was damaged, you can report it through 311. Happening tonight at the state capitol, Governor Walz will deliver his final State of the State address, and it's not clear what he'll talk about, but he is expected to touch on Operation Metro Surge, the Annunciation Church shooting, and the assassination of Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband. Walz's address will begin at 7 p.m. and will be live streamed. Let's take a live look from the White House. In the last few hours, President Trump put pen to paper, signing a bill ending a ban on mining near the Boundary Waters. The bill cleared the U.S. Senate earlier this month. Supporters say it will bring jobs to northern Minnesota, but others say they're concerned about the environmental impacts. If a mine were to be built, it would take years. Any project would have to go through an environmental review and secure state and federal permits. The UK's King Charles and Queen Camilla are in Washington this week, celebrating America's 250th birthday. And today, the King will address Congress before a formal state dinner tonight. Security is top of mind following Saturday's shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. NBC's Alice Barr has details on the pomp and circumstance of today's events and the challenges below the surface.
Hi there. King Charles' address to Congress today will be only the second by a British monarch, the first coming from his mother, Queen Elizabeth, in 1991. A Buckingham Palace official says the king will emphasize reconciliation and renewal in what he'll call one of the greatest alliances in human history. Today in Washington, the pageantry of a state visit fit for the UK's King Charles and Queen Camilla, with the undercurrents of the complex issues roiling some of America's top alliances. King Charles set to address Congress with a message emphasizing the U.S.-UK special relationship and coming together around shared democratic values, despite challenging times. That's according to a Buckingham Palace official. Among the challenges, a strain on President Trump's relationship with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
Amid tensions over the war with Iran and the president's frustrations, the British and other European allies haven't done more to back the U.S., despite the president not consulting them before the start of the war. Allies hoping the king's warm ties with President Trump can smooth diplomatic waves. During a visit celebrating 250 years of America's independence, capped by an official state dinner tonight. It all comes amid scrutiny over security following Saturday's White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting. The White House confirming a meeting
with top DHS leadership, members of the United States Secret Service, and our own operations team here to ensure the safety and the security of the president, as we do have many of these major events moving forward.
The suspect, Cole Allen, made his first court appearance Monday, facing federal charges of attempting to assassinate President Trump. The president has said he was satisfied with the Secret Service response, tackling Allen before he made it into the event, though the White House says there may be changes to security protocol. King Charles will reference the Correspondents' Dinner shooting at the start of his speech, according to a Buckingham Palace official. And in keeping with the King's dual task here, it was written by the UK government to support their priorities, including NATO, the Middle East, Ukraine, though all framed within the King's own tone. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Well, as we head into construction season, we're learning the state is recovering more than $1 million in stolen wages from construction workers. According to the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry, 3 construction companies intentionally misclassified 26 workers so they didn't have to pay them overtime, employment taxes, and other benefits. The companies agreed to pay the money back, but carpenters union leaders say this case is just a drop in the bucket compared to the rampant fraud happening in the construction industry.
There will always be those who try to cut corners, willing to exploit workers, ignore the law, and operate in the shadows of the economy. But they should not define our industry.
Labor and industry leaders say these wage theft cases also hurt taxpayers because the companies are avoiding employment taxes that provide benefits to all employees. Construction company owners also argue that they are victims because they often lose bids to companies that are intentionally breaking the rules. An update this morning, the man charged in last week's deadly shooting in Edina faced a judge for the first time. The judge set bail for L. Yvonne Wren at $1 million with conditions. He's facing second-degree murder charges. Court documents say video shows Wren and the victim, 22-year-old John Stroud, in an altercation. Moments later, Stroud is seen falling to the ground. Right now, the Shakopee community is grieving after a beloved high school teacher and coach died in a crash over the weekend. State troopers say Ryan Ehler died on Highway 169 in Edina after swerving abruptly and hitting a cement barrier. The crash report says he was wearing his seatbelt and they don't believe alcohol was involved. Shakopee school leaders say he joined as a health and PE teacher in 2021. He became an assistant coach on the boys' track team just last year. He was also a member of the Minnesota National Guard for more than a decade. This morning, we're learning more about the pilot who was killed in the Brooklyn Park plane crash Saturday. The Hennepin County Medical Examiner identified the pilot as Joseph Cass. Friends say Cass was an orthopedic surgeon at the Mayo Clinic who retired in 2017. A former colleague and neighbor says he was just in touch with Cass right before the crash.
He and I were texting about 45 minutes before his crash. We went on to doing some golf plans, asking him to come down and do some golfing with us. So that's the hardest part, being, having unanswered text message and reply to him after this happened.
Officials already identified North Dakota State Representative Liz Conmey as the other victim in this crash. No one on the ground was hurt, and the NTSB is investigating. This morning, Inver Grove Heights is now the latest Minnesota city choosing to fly the old state flag. The city council voted last night to replace the 6 state flags on city property back to the flag adopted in 1893, but not before nearly 2 hours of public comment, with dozens of people speaking both for and against the change.
The old flag, rooted in the 1893 design, reflects over 130 years of Minnesota identity. It is a historic artifact. It's not just a political, and it's so bad that it's political. It shouldn't be.
If people don't like the flag, they can fly whatever flag they want on their homes. As I understand it, you don't need to fly the state flag at all if you don't want to. If you don't like it, don't fly any flag. If you want to fly a Minnesota state flag, you should fly the flag that was properly chosen by the state to represent the state.
Inver Grove Heights is the latest of around a dozen cities to vote to revert back to the old flag. The city says it'll cost around $500 to replace all of the flags. Turning to the Wolves now, after a late night loss to Denver just hours ago in an ugly Game 5. The playoff series now heading back to Minnesota. Despite the loss, though, the Wolves are up 3-2 with hopes of closing it out at home this Thursday. Tip time still to be determined. It'll either be 8 or 8:30 depending on the Spurs-Blazers result tonight. Get-in price right now about $123 for the upper level. And over to the ice, the Minnesota Wild waking up in Dallas, getting ready for Game 5 of their playoff series tonight. The Wild go into this match fired up after Saturday's thrilling overtime victory at home. That evened the best-of-7 series 2-2. Puck drops tonight at 7, and you can watch the game at Grand Casino Arena for free. You just have to register for tickets on their website. Stick with us. More news and weather is coming up after the break.